Welcome to the May 23rd meeting of the Committee of the Whole, addressing the City Council and the Fitchburg City budget. This evening we have on hand the Finance and Administration Department, page 13. The Finance and Administration rundown. Total Assessor's Office, $343,859. Total auditors, $264,742. Total information technology, $429,446. Total purchasing, $227,838. Total treasurer and collector, $670,444. Total workforce management, $102,440. Total finance and administration, $2,038,769. First up this evening, we have the Auditor's Office, page 15. The Auditor's budget is $264,742. Mr. Saracen.
Thank you, councilors. Pleasure to be here. Just a couple of notes on page 15. As you can see, the Deputy City Auditor has been with us for 2 years. As was noted last year, I had stated that it was good for the department in the city that we hired Jackie Cronin, who is here tonight, and I still stand by those words. It's been a great transition, and there's been improvements, and we look forward to doing more in the department. As you can see also under clerical, we've discussed in the past, but we haven't yet staffed any clerical support in this department. So what we're hoping to do with this is to have about 10 hours a week of clerical support. What we've seen over the past year is that we need help with some data entry and basic functions that Jackie does right now, and by getting that clerical support, we can have her do more advanced tasks, which she's ready and willing to do. There's many different areas, researching ways to do things better, taking advantage of the Munis system. It's a great system, but there's more that can be done. Special projects. We have limited time available. If something comes up, we want to research something. We could improve some controls. We also assist other departments and would provide training to people that begin in with the city. Under the expenses, there's a slight increase in the budget, mainly to cover for certifications in training for both Jackie and I. We are both certified governmental accountants with the state. We have other certifications that we want to maintain, professional certifications. As you will see, something we talked about last night, there is a line item for actuarial services, GASB 45. That is the actuary that performs the study and calculation of the OPEB, or the health insurance liability. And that is done every other year. Right now we have an arrangement with one consultant that Stone Consulting is their name. They do the actuary for the retirement system on 1 year, and then the next year they do the actuary for the OPEB. So it works out really well. I'll answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Moving on to employee benefits, page 49. Employee benefits, pension non-contributory $35,000, contributory $8,060,000, workman's comp $350,000, unemployment $370,000, health insurance $12,700,000, life insurance $225,000, FICA $780,000, other benefits $620,000, Chapter 41 Police, $80,000. Chapter 41 Fire, $80,000. Total employee benefits, $23,300,000.
Okay, a couple comments. As you can see, this is, in a long time, I haven't seen this budget be close to level funded, so a lot of credit that goes to the mayor, the treasurer, and working with the PEC to successfully level or lower the health cost. That's one major item that I can touch on in a minute. First, the pension assessment, that has gone up about $320,000, and that's based on an actuary that is done every other year. It's been going up about 4.25%, and that's how we projected it out forward to go. However, following every study that's done every other year, there are adjustments, and it could change based on that. Either the performance of the fund, if there are savings, but it's pretty much staying the course. We are on course to fully fund the liability. This is a part of a payment plan that will fully fund the system by 2030. The state allows us to go out to 2040, but we have a more aggressive. We haven't taken advantage of that, which is a good thing. A couple other highlights: the workers' comp. That account is running somewhat tight. It covers claims for settlements. I'm sorry, it covers claims for those injured in the line of duty, and it covers physicals, investigations if we have any, medical claims, and also it's always good to have a little money set aside at year end in case we want to settle a claim, settle a long-term case. The unemployment. That is one account that's very conservative. Right now, our unemployment is very low. However, a few years back, the federal government gave us extensions at a bad time, and as you can see, in 2010, we spent $752,000. So we budgeted $370,000, but it is conservative. Health insurance. As the mayor mentioned yesterday, and you all know, that could have gone up by $800,000. Instead, it went down. There was a savings, and that is a key item to successfully addressing the OPEB liability, because when the actuary does a study, he bases the calculation on the trend, and the trend in prior years has been for that expense to go up 8 to 10% a year. So the next time that he does this study, he may smooth out that 8 or 10% down to 6% a year. In addition, the city is paying less, and the individuals are paying less. The other accounts are pretty much on course. Actually, police and fire medicals, there were some major, some material bills that we just paid. There's only about $18,000 left in those two accounts for the remainder of the year, but we're hoping to make it. I'll answer any other questions.
Just in my haste, I forgot to mention tonight in chambers we have Councilor Bean, Councilor Reynolds, Councilor Carboni, Councilor Boisvert, Councilor Di Natale, Councilor Caddy, Councilor Tran, Councilor Clark, Councilor Hay, and Councilor Munoz both indicated that they would probably be late this evening because of other commitments. Councilor Di Natale.
Thank you. I'd just like a request to be followed up on, not an answer tonight. I'd like to know what the total unfunded liability in pension and OPEB is currently. What the total number we owe currently for OPEB and pensions. And a schedule as to the payments to meet those obligations.
Okay.
My other question is, in this budget and in previous budgets, are we making contributions to the OPEB trust in addition to the retiree health care that gets amortized?
There is a schedule for the retirement, and we are making contributions for that.
How much?
I have a schedule here based on the last the unfunded portion, the unfunded liability as of the last study was 98 million
That's
in
just
pension.
Pension, okay.
Right.
Yep.
And this year, just under 7 million is paying for that unfunded liability.
I got that piece, but I'm talking about OPEB now.
OPEB is relatively new, okay? And so it's only been around officially for maybe 5 to 8 years. So it is a new item that we have to address. And before I may have that schedule, or I have the liability.
I don't need it right now. You can.
I have the liability, the liability, and I wanted to touch on that.
Sure.
On an unfunded system, which we are right now.
Yep.
It's 181 million.
So the 181 million plus the 98
Yep.
is,
That's a liability, and what that means is if the city ceased, we're out of business today.
right?
And we continue to give benefits the same as we have, that is what we would owe, okay?
But are we, you said we're not funding yet that OPEB?
The retirement, we're not, the retirement, we are funding.
I understand the
The
retirement.
OPEB, this is only the second study that we've done for OPEB. And no, we haven't started funding it. We have had discussions about beginning to fund it. And I think a combination of both managing, the key is, even with Moody's, we were at a conference and they said it's a soft liability right now. The key is that cities and towns are managing it, meaning we're paying attention to it, we're starting to address that liability. And there are two ways to do it. One is to redesign the plan, which we have done and we continue to do. And the other way is to fund it, okay? It's a lot easier to redesign than to pump cash, lay off and pump $1 million, whereas by redesigning the plan, you can it's less painful.
What if we do not get successful in the future of redesigning plans? What if, I mean,
Then we would probably have to fund it, more aggressively.
do you have any idea what that would be per year?
No, I don't. This is preliminary as far as how to address it, and there are different ways to set up a trust, and I think that's where we're heading, and it may be in the fall. And what it could be is, if I was, the mayor, myself, and the finance team, we haven't formally met to discuss the plan, but I assume there would be, we would see if we had available funds. We may have to consult with the actuary and maybe attorneys to determine there's a couple ways to set up the fund. If we're going to do it right, or we want to do it a different way, or however way we decide, then we would decide how much we have available to put into, to begin funding it.
Has Moody's requested a funding plan?
No, they've asked what we've done, okay? And what we've told them is, the key 2 years ago was, did you have the study done? So this was done, the previous one was done effective 1/1/2009. This one is effective 1/1/2011, and we had at least a number, which now shows on the on the financials.
And you said that was 101 million, the OPEB? Or
No, the OPEB liability is 181 million. And let me just say that in '09, the liability was 177 million. So it only changed by a slight amount.
So that's 279 million.
So now we've been in touch, I think all of us have been to seminars, we talked to our colleagues, our peers, and a lot of cities and towns are starting to put in the token amount to begin financing, and not only locally is this being addressed, but also at the state level. And one of the things I want to back up is, effective for the retirement liability, the law did change recently, and anybody hired after April of this year now maxes out on their retirement at age 67, okay? For all of the people before that date, you max out at age 65. So that's going to help our calculation, okay? And the other thing that I wanted to mention about last night is whenever, if someone stays here till age 65, chances are that we will not be we will not be paying out for 30 years. We may be paying out for 15 years because of the mortality rate, okay?
We may,
And that comes into play when they calculate. They also calculate, these are pretty involved. There's a lot of work by retirement, payroll, our office, school department, because not only do they factor in the employees, but they factor in the spouses and dependents with all of this.
My next question is, where is the financial justification to prove the claim that we are overall dropping our pension liability when we're adding new employees and everybody practically in this budget's getting a step raise? I just don't know how that math works. I'd like to see that math. I'd like to see a schedule that shows me that we're actually trimming down on our pension liability over the long term.
Well, I could provide the last funding schedule, and we are going through a new funding schedule that may be done by the fall.
Is the actuarial percentage increase 8%? Is that what it is?
No, they're different, the interest factor, the performance of the fund
Yes.
is about 8%.
Okay.
But not only, but let me back up. Despite the drop in the economy, there was a good thing in that, based on the administration in the past 4 years, we know that many people got 002. And the actuary saw, buybacks and raises and steps, and that amounted to, 4 to 5%. So they could see the trend the other way. So there are adjustments that are going to occur. There are fewer people. And let me just say for everybody out there that the retirement liability does not include teachers, the principals, or the school administrators. Anybody with education, their pension is paid for by the state, but the OPEB is paid for by the city.
My next question, I'm sorry to take so much time, is the new plan, the health care plan that was negotiated, and this might be a question for Mr. Doheny as well. The new plan that's been negotiated, A, does it have planned deductibles? And does the state, and if it does or doesn't, does the state GIC have planned deductibles? So does the new plans that we just agreed to have planned deductibles, and does the state GIC also have planned deductibles, or?
I'm not
They do. We increased our deductibles. We have now caps on it. Before, if you went for inpatient or same day, there was no deductible. That's now a deductible, 150 or 500. I believe those are the correct numbers. Plus, there's an individual deductible for the year of $1,000. You pay the first $1,000. Then after that, it kicks in. Before, that wasn't existent. The plan paid from $1. If a family, it goes up to $2,000. Again, in the prior time, it paid from $1. So the employee is responsible, if you're an individual, for the first $1,000, and for a family, the first $2,000.
Is it possible to get a schedule of comparisons between what we offer and what the state GIC offers?
You can, the state GIC plans are online. You can go to the state website and pull them off there. We can give you ours. I can send electronically if you didn't get those.
I'd like to know from you what we offer now versus what they would offer.
The big difference between our plans and GIC plans is the tiering of the hospitals. We don't have tiered hospitalization. GIC plans do. Meaning if you go to a hospital, if you send your labs to a hospital, if the hospital is rated poorly, you're going to pay more. If the hospital is rated better, you're going to pay less. That's effective around the Boston area because of the educational hospitals there, the teaching hospitals. They're rated very poorly. So they're getting clobbered with the higher payments. Here, we're very fortunate that our hospitals are tiered in the better bracket. So therefore, we're already seeing that in our rate structure with Blue Cross Blue Shield. So we didn't want to go to a tiered plan doesn't benefit us like it does the municipalities inside of 128.
Is it possible, this is the last thing I'll say, is it possible that we can get, I or the council can get all this information in writing or in a documentation form, so I don't have to put you on the spot right now. I'd like you to research this and get your ducks in a row before, I don't want to put you on the spot right now.
No problem, but that'll be the big difference, you'll see the tier plans. What I can do is I can give you the GIC plans. What is it? It's the most used plan, which I believe is the Tufts Navigator for GIC, and I'm not sure what their PPO is, but that's their HMO. So we would compare to that and show ours. Our deductibles are fairly similar, but we don't have that tiered structure. But I can get you those for sure.
Thank you.
Councilor Bean.
Mr. President, thank you. Dick, I just have a couple questions on the workers' compensation amount. And I know it's always a high amount, and it's one of those numbers. I just wondering, are there any things that the city's doing, any kind of best practice we're doing to kind of lower those costs, whether it's training programs, safety programs? I know some cities actually hire their own nurses or doctors to examine people before they leave and that, and they've seen reduction of workers' comp claims because of that. What are the things that we're doing to kind of reduce those claims, because it's quite a bit amount of money?
Yeah, it is. There is some seminars that are offered by, let me back up, we have a stop-loss coverage, which is about $45,000 a year. That covers, although we are self-insured, that covers us in the event of a catastrophe. Okay, if there was an explosion and 4 people got very hurt. So we needed to have some protection, even though we're self-insured with workers' comp. So, but the firm that provides that coverage does office webinars. Well, that would be where someone could go on the website, and there are other programs that I pass on to the HR departments and school officials or city, and sometimes you take advantage of those. I know John Barrett and Mary Barrett are very, the attorneys are very involved with the workers' comp and settling cases or trying to keep the costs down. It's a tough thing because it's not easy for the employer, I don't think.
Right.
And but the other thing on this point, though, this does not involve police and fire. This is just
Right, City
public
Hall
safety.
and DPW
School,
wastewater.
but it is
yes.
school people, and we do pass on this cost to the schools through our net school spending.
Are there funded other programs out there that instead of having it self-funded, other programs that may work better or not? Or
This is still not a big cost. This is pretty good. And the other program, something that you instituted was usually on the short term, if a department has someone out on comp, that department absorbs that cost. So it kind of puts a burden on that department and their fellow workers to try to get that person back. So that program is continued, and it's only the long term that.
any idea how many people have out long-term?
I would say maybe about 10, and some of them may have retired also, so
Right,
they're on for a long time.
Okay.
They may have been legitimate long-term claims.
I've just read, so there's some best practices on workers' comp, how to reduce claims and that, and if I see any more, I'll pass them on. The last question I had is other benefits. Just in general, maybe if you could just send me something, that total, is 620,000 is a bulk number.
Yep.
In general, what are those other benefits?
It's, actually, we maintain a spreadsheet that actually Jackie.
If you just want to send me that, then it's a big number again. And
Big, the police and fire, it's mainly buybacks of vacation and personal days, and they're they cover about
so the buyback is in that.
400,000 of it.
That's where the buyback money comes from?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Now, just for the sick leave buyback traditionally is taken care of within the department.
Right.
But, and this schedule also shows water, wastewater, airport, home, CDBG, which is separate from that number.
Okay.
So I could give it, whatever you'd like. We'll get it to you.
Okay, thanks.
What was our expenses for unemployment in the last month that you have?
Last month?
The last month?
It was about $1,000 for unemployment. I have the. Yeah. It was,
Where are we year-to-date?
year-to-date, general fund, 200, just a sec. I think it's 207,000. Yeah, 207,286. And one thing on unemployment, that cost is low. Recently, we did contract with a firm that pretty much audits and follows through on the claims, although they're low right now, but they'll be in position, and they can help us for advanced planning, like for schools, so teachers get the right notice so they don't collect during the summer, that type of thing. And that cost is only about $4,600 a year, so that's part of it.
Do we know, are we far enough along in the school budget process to know if we're going to have any layoffs this year? Anticipated layoffs?
If you want, Mayor, I talked to Bob Jokla yesterday on this, and he did say they don't anticipate many, but on the other hand, they do see hiring quite a few people, so although there may not be, we may not need all of that money in that line, we may need it in other accounts if there's significant new hires. That's all I'm saying.
So I'm just trying to figure out why, if it said if FY12 projected was 310, we're only spending 200, but yet it was increased to 370.
Yeah.
And we're not anticipating any real future layoffs.
Yeah, I guess the projections were done a while ago, and the fear of whatever the federal government could do. I remember one year I had to come back for a couple $100,000, so there's that concern. The other thing is, I think we budgeted about $400,000 last year, so there will be an excess in the account. I have it right here. Yeah, we budgeted $400,000. We spent $237 to date. $237.
If we're going to make recommendations, I'd recommend that we bring that account down to $300,000.
Okay.
Councilor Di Natale.
Just one quick other request I have, since we're with the finance folks. I would just like also an explanation, offline, submitted to the council, don't have to answer it now, of why we are using a method of balancing our budget with overlay surplus funds. I'd like to know why that's been the preferred practice since FY10. I'd like an explanation on what that exactly is and why that is a preferred practice now to fund an ongoing budget. Thank you.
Any other questions on employee benefits? Moving on to page 50, miscellaneous expenses. General insurance, $600,000. Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, $13,000. MMA dues, $8,000. Montechusett Home Health Care, $2,000. Johnny Appleseed Center, $40,000. Memorial Day, $2,000. Disabilities Commission, $200. Medicaid Billing Commissions, $80,000 for a total. Reserves for snow and ice, $400,000. Total miscellaneous expenses, $1,145,200.
Can I make a couple comments? All right. General insurance, that account has gone up significantly because of our higher loss ratio. We had some significant claims, not necessarily in the past 8 months or so, but going back, that have driven up our loss history. And over time, if it goes back down, then that we would see a decrease. I think you all know, like John Barrett was in for deductibles for a one claim the other week. Well, you only saw $25,000. What Meyer is our insurer. They paid a lot more for that to settle that claim. And then we had the Stonehouse. That was a costly insurance item. But we are trying to aggressively lower that premium with trying to take advantage of reward credits, which is by participating in programs. Meyer is very aggressive in trying to get communities to get knowledge on freeze-ups, on pothole maintenance, on sewer maintenance, and they also want to come out and do training for MCAD. I think you may have seen some of that in the Insurance Commission minutes. And so anyways, that item has gone up, and hopefully it'll level off. One thing I wanted to point out, as the mayor noted, the snow and ice, typically it is $400,000 a year. It has been since the mayor's tenure, and then usually it gets transferred to DPW. Stabilization fund, it shows the million, 2.5 million that was appropriated through period, for the past 3 years. In the past couple of years, what happened was it was not funded in the budget. It was funded with available funds, one-time revenue. So, and the other thing on a positive, a positive is Civic Days. Looking ahead in projecting to 2014, in February of 2014, that is our 250th anniversary as a town. So that is why you see an increase for 14 and 15. There will probably be, maybe you'll need more, I don't know. It depends on what occurs. And I can answer questions.
Councilor B.
I just had a question on the Johnny Appleseed Center. I don't know if you have the answer for.
Yep.
How long have we been funding that, and what do we get out of that?
We've been funding it, I don't know, I can find out when it started, but it's been since we had the room tax. And what happens is, we have a room tax and the state collects it, and then they give us, every quarter, we get, with the state distribution, the 100% of those funds, and then we give Johnny Appleseed 25%. That would be up to the 40,000.
I just have to recuse myself from the discussion.
Okay.
Councilor Di Natale, if you...
And so,
I was just wondering, what do we, I don't know, maybe if somebody could just tell me what we, maybe just what we benefit by that 40,000. I understand that, so the room tax could either come back to the
Right.
city and we could use it ourselves, or we give it to a regional outfit that then promotes the region, is that?
promote, the intent of the room tax is to use 25% of it for some kind of a promotion for the city. Okay. And when that all occurred, that's when the city decided to go with the 25% going to them. And that's basically it.
Okay. And that's a center that's on Route 2? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilor Caddy knows quite a bit about it. Okay. He did a presentation on it.
Okay.
On the the theory of the item.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Following up on that question, has there, forgive me if I don't remember, but has there been an actual study provided to us showing us just exactly the direct benefits to businesses in the city?
If there has, I haven't seen one.
I'd love to see one because it's an investment in our businesses, and I'd like to know what the benefit is. Councilors that raised this in the past made pretty good points on its viability with regard to what do we get for that 40,000. My concern is that 40,000 that was raised last year, I believe there was a request made to reduce it to zero, and I myself didn't support that right away because I didn't really have any objective evidence from any finance member in the city that can point to why that is an essential piece of funding in our operating budget. So I'd like to know that myself. Councilor Reynolds.
I thought that was a direct proportion to the receipt of tax money. That's not a voluntary contribution on that part. So if we give that up, we give up the tax money. And I think there would be a big gap in presentation of the area if Fitchburg opted out of that.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
I have another question, I'm sorry.
On-
Not on that one.
Okay.
Oh,
Yep.
I'll let Mr. President.
Okay. The disability, the amount in the column of the disability seems nearly insignificant. What is it there for?
It's,
And could it be raised?
yes, it could be raised. It is there basically to help the commission in the event that they have a meeting and they need like a visual aid or a hearing interpreter. And if ever there was a need for more funding, I'm sure the city would be receptive to it. I'm on the commission, and, I've told them that, and sometimes they want to have a bigger fund, but I said, whenever you need something, let us know, and...
Just out of respect, I think 200 is so nearly insignificant that it could be 500, and if they don't use it, it'll go back into the, it'll stay in the fund.
Right. Many times it doesn't even get used. And we have been successful with projects, through block grant and other areas, so. But it has been used for travel, where we had training for disability members that went to Worcester, and they got reimbursed right away, so.
I would like to see it raised.
Okay, yep.
Councilor Di Natale.
The stabilization fund line item. Do we have any idea yet what our free cash might be certified for fiscal year 12? Do we have any ballpark idea?
No, I could say that the revenues through the end of April look good. And the spending, there are some accounts that are under budget, under budget, so I think it'll be a good close, but I don't know. People always say never tell anybody what you think the free cash is, because it is up to the state, and they do a thorough review. They could find something that we don't expect, or they use their judgment on a receipt for a grant that may not have come in yet. So, but I think the numbers look pretty good.
Is there the possibility that we may not put any into it this year? Next
Into the
fiscal
stabilization?
Into next fiscal year, because we've had capital project requests that we're probably going to get and whatnot.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's the mayor's call. We may discuss stabilization, creating a trust for the OPEB, and some capital. And I think the city's been very creative in trying to take care of some of the capital throughout the year. One good one was the Shea Street project, some of the DPW items. And we got grants for the fire trucks, so that has really helped a lot.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Moving on to page 14, the Assessor's Office. Total assessors, 300.
Vic and his staff for providing us that monthly, the information. Whenever I ask for information, I get it quickly, and I just want to thank the Auditor's Office for the work they do to help us council stay informed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Total Assessor's Office, $343,859. Mr. Caputi?
It's pretty much level funded, other than the elimination of the reval expense. The reval money was appropriated last year. Reval program is currently ongoing, so the balance of that money will be used to fund the reval for FY13. Other than that, there's no real significant changes, so if you have any questions, I'll try to answer.
Councilor Caddy?
How often does the reval come up?
Every 3 years.
And do we just wait till every 3 years to put money in that account? Wouldn't it
You
be,
appropriated the year before, because it actually starts the year before for the upcoming fiscal year.
it just seems it would be better just to put $8,500 a year in the budget every year, so that you're not getting hit every third year for, not that it's a lot of money, but it just seems like it'd be better budgeted that way.
it can be funded that way. It never has, as far as, since I've been here.
All right, thank you.
Years past, it was a lot more money. This is really insignificant compared to what used to be funded. You know, we're talking a couple $100,000, so that might have been appropriated in that manner in the past, but this is pretty insignificant amount now. This is, the revaluation is the triannual revaluation that's mandated by the state. That's when they come in and do the complete audit. There are interim year adjustments that take place in the 2 years in between the reval years. That's pretty much similar to a reval, it's a statistical analysis, but the state doesn't do the complete audit. The cost, it's not the cost, we don't pay the state to come in, but it's only there so that I have monies to use if I need consulting services. We generally don't spend that amount of money, but some of it's used for legal notices, additional mailing, printing, informational packets, stuff like that.
Thank you. On the revenue side for new growth, it says 350,000 FY12 projection. How accurate is that number? Do we have a number that's certified by the state of what that actually is?
Be certified until we make the application for it, but our calculations show that we've met that goal already.
We've met it. Have we exceeded it?
It's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Caputi, Ken, thank you very much. Information Technology Division, page 16. Total dollar value, $429,446. Trevor?
I guess I'll just open up for questions. I'm very happy with what the department has done this year. I think we've accomplished a lot of goals that we set out to do at the beginning of the year, and I think we're very close to saving some money. You know, I don't think we're going to be saving as much as we have in other years, but I think we've accomplished more goals, so I'm open to questions.
Councilor Bean.
Trevor, since I'm fairly new and maybe some of the other councils, just tell me what those goals were. I mean, I wasn't here last year, so I don't know what they, I read briefly on the mayor's page, but is there, maybe you could, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go through all the details, but we replaced.
What are the more substantial ones that you?
Yeah, we replaced the phone system. Well, the lack of a phone system in City Hall.
Yeah.
But we replaced it in the library, the senior center, DPW, and wastewater collections.
And what were the savings on that?
We don't know the savings. I was hoping to have it done by the end of January and see that savings so I could project them, but I think it'll be substantial through the next year. It was substantial enough that I made it through this year without that savings for the 6 months, and I'm going to be able to pay my bills. But I think it's going to be substantial next year, I hope. I'm not sure yet. We've built the fiber network out to the DPW yard, so we've cut off that T1 cost, which was $200 a year. I'll cut off the T1 connections between the 2 fire substations before the end of this fiscal year. So that'll all be internal network from now on. That'll be all free after the cost of the equipment. We've replaced the switches, the backbone, made them gigabit, which is 10 times, 100 times the speed of what they were before. It was old equipment that was aging. We replaced all the servers at the fire department with one larger server that's virtualized, so it saves money in electricity and replacement cost. I've got some more, but...
I just have a couple ideas. I don't know if you're heading this... Have you done this?
We replaced all the PCs in police with new Windows 7 machines. We've done a lot.
Have you done anything in the cloud-based area yet, or
we will
look at savings there?
Yeah, we are in the process of moving our permit tracking application to the cloud. It'll be our first database out on the cloud, and the reason for that is because the inspectors want to move around the city and be able to do inspections on tablets, which is all the rage. That's the future of technology, I think, in a lot of ways. We have to go in there into that issue slowly because we don't want to waste money with, iPads when we should have had PC tablets, that type of thing. But I think things are going great. I would hope that we'll be on the cloud with our database by the end of this year, fiscal year.
And what do we use for I know that a lot of I've read some cities are going to a Gmail system instead of using the Microsoft because of the cost in that. I know the city of San Francisco, I know others that have done that. Have we looked at that to see if there's a savings there?
Yes, sir. We've looked at that a lot. I think that's for the big communities where their cost is much higher.
Okay.
I think that we'll probably be looking at updating Office one more time before we really take a serious look at that.
Okay.
At our size city. But our cost for Exchange for the entire city, for everybody I manage, which is everybody minus schools, is probably 28, 30,000. So it's not a huge cost compared to, a San Francisco or.
Okay.
But yes, sir, we do look into that.
Thanks.
Councilor Di Natale.
Thank you. The systems administrator stipend line, $5,200 was spent in FY09, $4,700 was spent in FY10, 0 was spent in 11, 0 was spent in 12, and the request is $10,000. Why is it $10,000?
The stipend prior to that was the stipend for the Munis administrator. That money has been moved to another department. There hasn't been anybody, but now I've picked up a part-time intern last year. His name is Nick Cordio, and he's been great. He's really helped us. I don't know if you guys have asked around, but really helped us keep up with our goals of satisfying people's needs. He's a part-time employee, and we pay him out of a grant. So it is $10,000, but it's minus the $10,000 in that grant. So we're not actually paying anything for his services. And he works about, I'm hoping to have him for 18 hours a week.
So that $10,000 is covered by a grant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My other question is the cruiser data service.
Yep.
Through May, we've spent $5,700. You're requesting $10,000.
Yeah, we've doubled our cruiser force this year. We replaced the 6 cruisers, the 6 new cruisers last year, but the deputy chief had asked me to go ahead and start building out the radios and the equipment, the air cards for all the cruisers. He thinks that there's going to be some cost savings long-term if he drives the older cars in the winters. So I've doubled my cost of data access.
Because of that expanded...
That expanded fleet, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll also be looking at the fire department and doing that soon. They really are wanting to move into that realm.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. President. Trevor, I have noticed in the last couple of months that I think we've improved on our website as far as information getting out there. I know as far as us, agendas, minutes, stuff like that are up to date. Now the challenge is going to be, to keep them up to date.
Yeah. You requested that last time I was in front of you, and Anna's department has been doing a lot to keep those agendas on, but Nick, part of his job in those 18 hours is to check the web page once a month and make sure there's no broken links and update those links. So that has made a major increase or benefit to our web page.
There are a couple of things that I did notice. I didn't see anything for the senior center in there. I think there should be some sort of, certainly more information on the center than is in there. And as far as the sewer separation and wastewater, there was nothing in there for that either. That's such a big, important project, and I know that there are some things that can be put on the public website like that, and some can't.
Yeah, we have maps of everywhere we're working and everywhere
Yeah.
we're going to be working. We could do that without a lot of effort, yes.
I think the more the better. People ask, when could I see something like this? I say, you could always go to City Hall, but it's a lot better for people when they're at home. They can take their laptop out and they can look and take their time and do whatever they want to do. But that service should be there for the people. And so I guess my words are, it's improved. With websites, I know that the university has just gone through a change in theirs. It seems as though you've got to have a new look, like maybe every 3 years. And that look that we have now is probably more than 3 years.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So it may be time to start freshening that up. But the content going in has improved, and I thank you and your department for that.
Cheers, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to the purchasing division. Page 18. Welcome, Mr. Donahue. Total purchasing $227,838.
Councilors, thank you. Nancy Wilson has a family matter. She couldn't be in attendance today, so I'm kind of covering her budget. You can see it's slight increase over the prior year due to costs going up for advertisements and things like that. But if you have any questions, I believe I can answer them.
Councilor Levine.
Thank you. I was just wondering, does the city participate in any cooperative purchasing programs? There's some national ones, U.S. Communities, NGIP, I think National Government Purchasing, or NGIPI, or whatever it is. I mean, a number of organizations that do this and do these universal purchasing items so that it saves the city time and effort of going out, but also gives them a lower cost because you're doing a larger volume. You know, U.S. Communities has done quite a bit throughout the country, and they do a lot in Massachusetts. And I just don't know if the city's ever taken advantage of those services to help lower our cost and to lower the workload.
Sure. That'd be definitely a question for Nancy Wilson. But I know she has looked at regionalizing bids before with other communities. Sometimes they've worked, sometimes they haven't.
Yeah.
You know, we're fairly large enough that we can kind of do a standalone on those types of things. I'm very fortunate. A lot of our stuff like that would get off the state bid list, which is a bigger buying group, so we use their mass buying power to procure things. The bigger issues we have right now are obviously the wastewater procurement issues, school department procurement issues, DPW procurement issues, and those are really just city-driven issues.
I'd urge the city to look at some of these U.S. Communities is the largest. It's actually the National Association of Counties, National League of Cities, U.S. Conference of Mayors, schools, and the purchasing organization, national organizations, they get together and they do national contracts that really reduce the cost down because there's such a volume in that. So it's anywhere from school supplies to food services to roofing materials and that. And I think I might have mentioned it to Nancy years ago, but I think it might be something the city may want to look at as they're going forward.
Sure, more than happy to bring it up.
I'll send you
Just send me that literature and I'll make sure it gets passed on and it gets taken a look at. Thank you.
Several years ago, I'll go back probably 5 or 6 years, I guess, that it was determined that there was not a need for an assistant purchasing agent, and that the need was for a clerical person. Now, in this budget, you have a purchasing agent, an assistant purchasing agent, and a clerical person. Is the intention, I know that the auditor's office said that they were looking for 10 hours or so a week for auditing department. Is that office going to stay the same with 3 individuals in it, or is there going to be shared secretary or clerical in the near future?
I believe it's going to stay the way it is. However, if there is some allotment of time and Dick Saracen thinks that would be a good fit for his office, we would definitely look into that. But the rules of procurement are changing drastically. I mean, they're increasing, they're getting more cumbersome, a lot more manpower, a lot more requirements, a lot more safeguards for municipalities so they don't get stuck out there buying something, not procuring it correctly, and then having to come back to bite them. So I know there's been a lot of time and effort with the individuals that are in there. I'm not sure if there's any excess time to use for other departments, but if it's a timing thing and it does happen to come up free time, we would definitely go to Mr. Saracen first. Their offices are right next door to each other. It's a very convenient fit if that would be so. But with all the wastewater demands that are coming down with the decrees, it's a very busy office at this point in time.
I guess I would just ask the mayor to look at that.
We did, and I think one of the things that the treasurer mentioned is that the laws and the rules are very complex. We certainly found that that office has been a bottleneck because there's so many contracts and because they're so complex. So part of what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to train each department to deliver their materials to the purchasing office in a way which isn't a complete mess, so that there's some sort of organization so that it can be looked at and reviewed in a timely manner because everything is so unique. The second thing that we found is when an individual is out, when you have one person who is responsible for purchasing for an entire city, 1,400 employees, over $100 million, and there's personal time, there's vacation time, there's sick time, that when that individual is out, it's a problem. We haven't been able to find firms that we could even hire temporary services and so on. So one of our intentions is to figure out how to hire or how to train backup from within. So we are looking at ways in which we can make sure that multiple people understand purchasing, so that we never get into that issue where sometimes if a contract falls behind, we might increase costs by 5 figures, 6 figures, even 7 figures. So it's certainly a concern to us to make sure that this area is covered.
Any other questions? Thank you. We're moving on to your next hat, page 19. Tax collection. Total tax collection and treasury, $670,444. And I'm thinking isn't there a separate page for parking?
There is, it's page 17, Counsel.
Page 17, and that's not listed anywhere on our agenda, but I'm assuming that you're going to cover that as well.
Okay, and page 20 is my workers' comp and benefits person. They're on page 20. I'm not sure how they fall into that, but want to make sure we pick them up also, if there's any questions there.
So, Councilor 17, 19, and 20 are all falling under the tax collector's office.
I guess what page would you like to start with? You want to start with 17? We'll go
17, please.
17, we'll go in parking.
Councilor Bean.
Actually, I was talking here about this today, and I was wondering, with parking meters and parking meter receipts, have we looked at technology to be able to use credit cards? And I say that because even when I come to City Hall and that, I usually don't have quarters in my pocket, and I have to circle around and I wait for the space back there. I should have quarters, I don't. I'm just honest. But if we had the ability to pay with credit card, I'd be paying it. Typically, when I go to cities that have the credit card, I put in a full of max, the $2, whatever it is. But and I do know there are programs out there for using your cell phone, pay by cell, which costs the city no dollars at all. You use the same technology you have, and really, and just similar to like when you pay your real estate bill, the consumer pays that extra fee. That's the fee there. And I don't know whether we've looked at that, but I think it'd be another way to just make it easier to pay a parking meter. We have parking meters. We're not going to get rid of them right now. And if the worst thing is if you don't have the money to put into it, then you're going to get a ticket. So if we had other ways for people to be able to pay, such as either using your mobile phone or your phone to do that, it's just another way to be able to help people pay their parking.
Sure, and we have looked into that. We have looked at it recently. The big thing I think I want to change over are the older park and pay machines we have at the garages. They're pretty old. They're German engineering, very difficult to get parts for. We have problems with them quite often. Actually, when they converted the new $5 bill, they don't take the new $5 bill, so we have a guy coming in to convert chips over to get those working on the new $5 bill. So at the same time, we've looked at upgrading machines. I asked my parking control supervisor actually today if he could get me some cost on upgrading the park and pay machines to see what it would be. Obviously, that wouldn't be in a budget. I'd have to come back for an appropriation for anything that large. As for those
capital costs, I'm just saying,
Sure.
one way to be able to provide customer service for people and make it easier for them to pay is be able to, not everybody, a lot of people have mobile phones. It's going to be the wave of the future. And I guess, we may want to look into that. And it's a no cost to cities usually.
Sure, more than happy to. The other thing I noticed when I did go through it is the ordinance states that the meters need to accept quarters, change, and whatnot. So I believe I might have to come in front of council to rewrite that to allow it to accept credit cards or phone charges or something of that nature. So you'd see that before you when we head down that path. But I think technology is great, so I'm all for it. I know people that run in and run out and they get a ticket in the meantime, so it's
It
unfortunate.
would increase your revenues plus provide better customer service.
It would make customers happy, and it's a good thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Di Natale.
Thank you. First question is, how much money do you have currently in your parking reserve, if you will, like from all the receipts you've collected versus your expenses? What do you have in your balance?
I don't know exactly. I believe at the end of last year, somewhere around 280,000 or somewhere, 300,000. Mr. Saracen might be able to answer that. And I know this year, I didn't have a parking control officer for 4 months. Actually, I filled in for him, and my parking meter attendant filled in for that role for 4 months. So I know I have a surplus this year. However, even though parking tickets are down.
How many parking garages do you see? Is it just the two on Main Street?
We have the lower floor of the Mart is ours. We have the two on, the two-story on Main Street. We have the five-story on Putnam. We have Day Street, plus 300 meters.
There has been many complaints to me on parking meters on Main Street. I myself consider them to be archaic and meaningless. Why do we have them on that street? Why? Because I know people say, put a quarter in the meter, pay for the half hour or the hour, and be quiet. I mean, how much revenue would we forfeit if we didn't have those meters on Main Street?
Well, I think you have to look at, to mention like Devaney Jewelers, Shacks, down that lower end of Main Street, meters are, they really like the meters. They think they're a necessity. They need them to move people off Main Street so that every, half hour, there's spots opened up for people to come and park. If you talk down that end, they like the meters and they don't want to see them go away. They actually have a problem if someone comes in and feeds the meter too often, that car's not moving. The side streets are actually cheaper, so we talk to the people and try to get them to the sides instead of on the Main Street where meters are meant to move traffic flow. I'm afraid if you pull the meters out, someone's going to park in front of those stores and they're not going to move, and then they're going to lose revenue because the person's not going to come in, they're going to go elsewhere. So Main Street is somewhat divided in the lower end and the upper end. The lower end has the garage with, 20-minute free parking in the middle. They've got a pretty good setup. Up this end, they're in a tougher bind, and I hear a lot more complaints regarding this end of Main Street than I do that.
I was going to say Upper Main Street is where I get most of the complaints from business owners. That it's a deterrent to their business getting customers.
I'm open to all solutions, and we're willing to talk about anything. We're looking to, keep business in Fitchburg. We're not trying to restrict anybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I just want to say that, I have to say this every year, that one of your parking Mr. Forrest, don't let him go. I swear he's got wings. He is one place, and then 3 miles later, he's there in 5 minutes. I don't know how he gets there, but
I don't either.
he is, I know we get our money's worth from him enforcing parking regulations and whatnot, believe me. I know from personal experience. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you know the amount? I didn't mean to address that. Did you have the amount roughly?
I don't have it with me. It is on the status sheet that you get. It would be in, actually it's in Fund 16. So it does have the balance in that.
And to get back on that, I have the capstone at the five-story garage is deteriorating. I had Lenny Lax up in DPW, my new parking control officer, Marcus Scott, go through it today because we have to put that out to bid. Along with a few other things in there. That's obviously not in the budget. I'm hoping that I can get the funding in this year to do that. But if not, I might be in front of you, in front of the council, requesting a transfer from that fund in order to pay for those costs, depending on what the bids come in at.
I also know, talking to your former parking supervisor, he emphasized to me the need for improved security in the Johnsonia parking garage, or the parking garage behind the Johnsonia.
That is correct. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
But I did talk to actually Mike Forrest and Marcus Scott yesterday. I go through there a couple times a week, especially with the Johnsonia going down, that there's been a lot of activity and a lot of people that temporarily took parking passes for a few months in there. Once that's down, we're going to sweep that garage, get ready to clean it up, and I'm probably going to change all the passwords and do a full security system in there, maybe add a couple cameras. So that's where we're planning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's where I was going with my question. With the parking meter garage receipts at $138,000, do you see a change with the Johnsonia building? Have you been able to fill the slots that were formerly held by tenants?
It's a little early to tell because think of all the construction guys and everyone else coming in there. We filled in a fair amount of those spaces. We noticed a drop in some of those. However, we believe we picked up some of that with other businesses around the area. There has been some decrease, but I don't think it's been significant at this point in time. But once that building is down and then everything settles down, we'll have a better understanding of what that is.
And I just want to say I do, use the meters on Main Street. I do go to the places that are on this end of Main Street, and the parking meter is not a deterrent for me of whether or not I want to go to a restaurant or someplace over here and it's on Main Street. If I want to go there for lunch or wherever it is, I go there and pay the 50 cents because it's well worth it. Any other questions on parking? Moving on to page, we want to go to 19?
Sure, we'll go to 19, we'll hit them in order. Thank you. A lot of the expenses on this page are incurred in the last 3 months of the year. Not necessarily during the year. A lot of the stuff is anticipation of year-end, month-end filings, and things like that. But if you have any questions regarding any specific line items, I'm more than happy to answer those.
Councilor Di Natale?
Thank you. Overtime.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to know why it says FY11 we spent $3,500 when the status C with encumbrances said 0.
It probably just didn't get transferred over when we were transferring the numbers. If there wasn't any spent, I believe last year I spent a little of that. A lot of times, I was very fortunate I could comp my staff instead of paying them the overtime. However, I believe last year I spent like maybe $500-600 of that. I didn't spend a lot of that. The big thing we have regarding that this year, we're not going to spend much because we didn't have the winter that we have. The contractual obligations that are in there is if there's a state of emergency and I'm open for business, I need to pay them overtime for that day. They get paid straight time and they get overtime for coming in. And I can't close my business. My need to be open. The other part of that is if my parking garages have a severe snowstorm on the weekend, I was very fortunate with my prior parking control supervisor who would come in on his own and do that. I'm not sure I have the luxury anymore with the new parking control supervisor, so I might be paying overtime for him to come in on those weekends and whatnot to clean that place up. So that's my concern.
The highest spend number I see on the statuses is from FY11, $300.
Correct.
And you're asking for $3,500.
That is correct. I have 11 people that work in that department.
Did you add staff?
Halfway through last year in January, when the water and sewer department raised their bills, I had one additional clerical come on.
I'd like to recommend that that be cut by $2,500.
The overtime line?
Yes. Page 19.
May I speak on that?
Sure.
I suggest that it doesn't be cut at all due to the fact that I'm very fortunate where I can comp my staff. That's something that I work out individually with my staff. If they say, no, I don't want the comp time, I have to pay them the overtime wage, okay? So, therefore, I could be stuck where I couldn't open my doors because I don't have enough money to pay them the overtime to get them in there. I don't want to run into that. It's not a large amount of money, but it is a security for me that if I need to have somebody there, it's acceptable. Okay?
My next question is on office supplies. FY11 says $17,500. Status C with encumbrances says $11,074. Not sure why there's a disconnect there. The highest spend total in the last 5 years was $12,055. FY12, we spent $8,000, and based on that burn rate, we're going to spend probably around $10,000.
As I mentioned,
39% higher than the average, so I don't know why do we...
I can tell you why.
Okay.
A lot of my stuff will come at the tail end of the year, okay? The other thing this year, we've changed our phone systems. I have 5 people that'll need new letterhead, new business cards, so we'll have to do all the new phone number changes in there. I was very fortunate this year that there was a surplus equipment from another department that I was using for parts to run one of my big printers, and it came with 3 toners for $1,000. So roughly, I saved $1,000 coming from another department. I was very fortunate of that. As I mentioned, I have 11 people that work for me. You know, if a desk fails, if a chair fails, if something fails, I need to have money in there in order to pay for that. I can't come back here for a $500 line item. So I think with the staffing I have and the needs that come on, we do a lot of mailings lately. The last few months, we've gone through 5 cartons of paper in less than 6 weeks. So we are screaming, getting out paperwork to people that pay their bills to get money in on time. So the toners, as I mentioned, are $375 a piece, and we're going through a lot of it. So, but it has, the other end of that is I spend that money, However, the revenues, if you can see the revenues this year, where revenues are ahead of where they've been in the past, and I think we're $1.8 million ahead of where we were last year.
Next question is on data processing. Again, FY11 says 120,000, the status C says 96,094 with encumbrances. And this year, it's at 91,000, and we're asking for 120.
Correct. We have an upgrade of Munis, that's for the Munis system, plus if there's a breakdown, we went to a new ASP system this year, means the servers and whatnot are up in Maine, they're no longer in this facility. We're doing an upgrade from one of our versions to another version. I anticipate if we have a problem, we're going to pay $1,000 a day for somebody to come in here to make us up and running. So that's a good contingency there. We use it to cover year end. We use it to cover my preliminary bills. We use it to cover anything. There's a lot of emergencies, problems that can come up in data processing. Therefore, I think that's a fair amount, that if something did come up and we were down 2 weeks, I could get a server, I could run a separate line, I could keep the system up and running. The big problem I have in my department is if I have a bill and it's due May 1st, and someone comes in to pay it, I need to always be up and running so that person can pay the bill. Because if we can't enter it on the system, now I'm responsible to credit them back any interest or any problems that they have. And that could be very cumbersome for the staff I have, especially with the additional 100,000 water bills that are going out annually.
I guess I have a problem with why these numbers don't reflect what the status Cs say.
I'm not sure why they didn't get updated. I thought we had updated them, maybe when we copied them over, they didn't get picked up. But I don't have,
That's a mystery to me. I get them. I get them from the auditor.
Yeah, no, I'm not, when they put it onto the transposition to the final budget, it just might not have been picked up. I believe we had changed those, and I believe I have worksheets that show that they were changed, but on the final one, I didn't catch that. I was keying on the FY12 adjustments, the FY13, and 14 and 15.
Next question is on maturing debt. Do we know exactly what that's?
Sorry.
Oh, that's another page. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to throw it on the page. A recommendation to cut data processing by 10,000, and that would leave 110,000 in the budget, which is 15 to 20,000 more than what has been spent on average in the last 4 years.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to make a comment on it. I know you skipped by bank service charges. I budgeted 10,000. I'm at 17,000 this year. So
that's why I didn't ask anything about that.
That's why sometimes I need other areas to have a surplus to cover emergencies that come up in other areas. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to pay bills. I'd be in here, it'd go to finance, it'd come back out 6 weeks later, I get appropriation to get the money if it's available from some other department. So that's why having a little bit extra in some of those makes it easy for me to day-to-day operate.
So, Councilor Bean.
I was going to ask you about the bank service charges. I see that went up 80%. Why did they go up, and what are those actually?
A couple factors. Bank of America added additional charges, which they hadn't had in the past. So they hit us with a $7,000 bill. I'm actually disputing it with them right now. So hopefully I'll get some of that credit back. The other thing is the water and sewer bills have gone out. I increased, instead of 52,000 bills a year, I'm doing 150,000 bills. So there's 100,000 bills that are being processed through data processing. A lot of those are lockbox. So therefore, that's increased that charge.
How often do we go out to quote or RFP for bank services?
So I have a quote right now. We use Sentry, which is the, I would say, the most known and best supportive bank out there. But Commerce Bank has come in with a proposal, and I do have another bank that has given me another proposal, and I'm weighing those up now to see.
I just hope that we're out looking all the time.
Yeah, we are. We are most definitely.
Some of us can't. We're just stuck with the bank, but you can. And again, so you do all the printing for water, wastewater, and the tax bills.
They do printing. I print the tax bills, motor vehicle excise. They do their own water and sewer. They print themselves.
Okay.
But we process. We collect.
Okay.
So we collect all the bills. We lockbox all the bills. We handle any payment questions regarding the bills.
Have we looked at going outside is it cheaper to go outside to do it, or is it still cheaper to do it inside? Have we ever looked at that?
I print the bills with Kelly and Ryan, my deputy collector. They do it at a very
Right,
inexpensive
okay,
rate,
I'm
but
aware
I
of that,
pay
yeah,
them for
yeah.
that.
What about wastewater, about water and
I
wastewater?
believe they,
I mean, now we're doing monthly, I'm just thinking, it's a lot of work
you can
and,
talk to them how they do
Okay.
theirs. I know they have someone who folds and mails and handles it. I'm not sure about the printing part of that on their end.
I mean, we did it quarterly is one thing, but now doing monthly, I'm sure it's a big workload, and,
We went from 5,000 bills to 13,000 bills a month.
right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess to follow up on that, I mean, I don't know if I should ask you how their monies are coming in, or should I wait for water and wastewater? I mean, you see it. Do you think that this is causing less overdue bills?
What I see at the council, I think at the beginning, it was a little rough go, but I think now we've got the billing cycles in pretty good order. I think a lot of people are coming in and they're happy to pay a $100 bill versus a $300 bill, honestly. You know,
So
so I think it's better. So I think revenue should be up because they should have collected now that extra span in there to get them to the monthly from the quarterly. But you could check with them on the exact revenue figures, but I think that should be in their system at this point in time.
Who handles delinquencies? That's still them, or is that through your office?
They handle delinquencies until they get put on the tax bill. Once they get it leaned on the tax bill in December, then it becomes under our jurisdiction and we enforce it.
Question for another day. Okay.
One more questions?
Councilman.
You mentioned how it gets to you. I think I saw in the highlights that the mayor gave us that you're looking at doing some tax auctions, tax title auctions.
Yeah, I had last year, unfortunately, I got judgment in land court for some parcels. I had a few still out there, so I'm going to put those up for sale. I'm going to do some land at low values. I'm hoping to do all that in the fall to get those out.
Have a ballpark figure what?
I don't, it's hard to say, you know, it depends on who shows up and how the economy is.
Is this going to be an auction you're going to hold here at
Yeah, it'll
City
be a
Hall?
public
Or are you going to
auction.
hire, okay. No,
Correct.
I mean, I know the services that do it too, but the city can do it itself, so.
Yeah, I hired an auctioneer last time. I would probably do the same this time, but I'm not,
I think it,
depending on the properties I have.
right, I was going to say, a lot of times it depends on the property. If it's a property of high value, you obviously want to make sure you get the best value. Getting rid of those other small little parcels, sometimes best just get them off the.
Correct.
Thank you,
Land at low value, I did myself. We didn't hire those out. We take those in-house.
thank you.
Moving on to page 20, workforce management, $102,440. Page 21, debt service, total debt service, $4,650,000. You want to say something about it first?
The maturing debt and the long-term debt, we have schedules from our bond council that pretty much dictate how much those principal and interest payments are going to be. They're actually fixed. For the most part, they're set in stone. Last year, we did do a rewrite of the school, and it saved us quite a bit of money. I believe it was like somewhere $267,000 or something of that nature. But it was a nice figure going forward. And these schedules reflect all that. The short-term and certification costs are for the short-term stuff we'll do. For instance, we'll issue a ban this year of $4 million, possibly $5 million. We're discussing it right now. We'll do that in June. We pay off one debt in June, and we ban right away for the rest. $4 million is already a ban out there. We're basically just going to rewrite that ban. We've talked to wastewater. We believe we might add $1 million to that, so there'll be $5 million from there. Excuse me. We do a SAN of $300,000. That's for the state reimbursement for the road repair work and whatnot. I do a RAN of $4 million. So roughly, I'm going to do short-term debt next year of $10 million. I take a conservative approach at 3.25%. That gets me around $325,000. So basically, that's how I come to those figures.
Councilor Di Natale?
Thank you. The short-term debt interest increase, is that for things that we're going to take on that are new?
That's stuff that's already been approved through council. A lot of it, $4 million is the school renovations and all the stuff that they're doing. We've already passed that. Basically, they're not ready to bond it yet, so we take out a ban temporarily until it gets to a completed stage. So I believe next year we would be bonding all that. So next year you'll see that change. My long-term maturing debt will increase to reflect that.
And the maturing debt number is from an actual payment schedule?
That is correct. That is correct. I think it comes around $3,430,000 or something like that. I put a little bit in there just in case something's in there.
Will you know throughout the year if that short-term debt interest number is actually going to be used?
I will know fairly quickly on half of it when I do my first ban, and the SAN to see what those rates come in at. The big what-if is the $4 million revenue anticipation note, the RAN I do. I've done that in August. I normally do it prior to paying the retirement account, the $8 million that goes there. Who knows where the market will be at that point in time? You know, I project a 3.25 as a conservative. You know, I take a pretty much conservative approach. If that comes in at 2.75, good. If it comes in at, 3.75, I'm in trouble. But I'll make it work. I mean,
How does the maturing debt correlate with long-term debt interest? Does it?
The maturing debt, it is factored in. You have to schedule that shows the principal and interest payment for all long-term debt over a year. And we get it from bond counsel, and Mr. Saris and I go through it. We prove it before we even put it on the paper here.
So how does maturing debt go up and long-term debt interest goes down?
It's the way we restructured some of the loans. So some of the loan, the principal is now coming up, so there's a higher principal amount due. However, because you're paying higher principal, your total debt drops, so therefore we have less interest to pay.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Bean?
Questions. Could we get a copy of the schedule? The schedule. I don't know. If maybe the auditor does send it out. I can't remember.
We have it, either one of us.
Okay, yeah. Maybe I think I requested it early on, but if I get another copy of it, so that we can see what's being retired, when it's going to be retired, and things like that.
Sure.
And the second question I had is that with this monthly billing now, with the water department and that, I don't know if this is enterprise fund, but I was just wondering, does that help with your cash flow, so maybe you're borrowing less or something?
It helps the enterprise's cash flow.
Okay, but not...
enterprise fund, it doesn't come to the city's general funds.
Okay. Okay.
But any cash flow definitely helps me a little bit. But
Right, I know that's why we went to quarterly billing, quarterly payments of the property tax to help cut down on borrowing costs and that, be able to increase the cash flow. So I didn't know whether but it's an enterprise fund. Okay.
Right. And just to let you know, the schedule I'll give you is, excuse me, at this point in time, like I said, we rewrote the debt last year, which was a big savings to the city. Therefore, that would have changed at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it's a good guide to go by.
Okay, thanks.
Just one question. If you go back to page 1 with the state aid reimbursements for the new high school, is that because of rewriting of that?
That is correct.
So they give us that much less and we match that much less?
Yeah, they actually received 80% of the savings because they were funding 80% of the thing.
That's fine, as long as it's good practice for us, good practice.
Saved us a lot of money. We had to go, actually, I think Tom, myself, and Mr. Saracen went into Boston to meet with the Mass Financial Oversight Board and had a discussion with them regarding that, and they approved it, and we got a nice savings and interest on that.
Good job, thank you. Any other questions? Anything else to cover? Motion made and second to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned.